Alright. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Doggo333 and welcome back to Hearts of Iron for the New Order, Last Days of Europe as the Greater German Reich. Now in the last video, we succeeded in working with France in order to get them into faction. Also, Brittany is no longer a thing, but that's... Oh, speaking of which, with the signing of the Bordeaux Accord between President Pierre Pujol and Reichsminister des Auswärtigen Helmut Schmidt, the French state is officially rejoining the Riots Pact. This came after extensive diplomacy between the two politicians that culminated in Fall Rotlo, a Franco-German military operation against the rogue Breton state. With the French state once again part of the Riots Pact, international observers believe Germany to have gained a highly important strategic point in Europe. Reciprocally, the French are poised to give a sizable matter of aid and benefits from Germany now, a view further reinforced by the general reformist course of Führer Schmidt, its regime, and the promise made by Reich Minister Schmidt. Finden werden Freunde. I'm sure that means we found a friend, or something like that. I don't know. I don't know if there are any Germans left who haven't immediately clicked away from my terrible fucking German accent. This is the Kaiserreich one. I'll leave it for a second for you guys to read it. Yeah, it's long enough. But yeah, what was I saying? Shit. I forgot what I was about to say. Damn it. I think we're talking about France. Kaiserreich came up. Yeah, I forgot what I was talking about. Just dead ass. Oh dear. Oh, this is embarrassing. Well, our new spitting image. And if I'm not mistaken, we're able to baste. Or else we're no longer slaves in Litauen. Oh, we need a little bit of a... We're really taking out Reichsveka pretty damn quickly, honestly. But, they still have a few strongholds that we'll have to deal with slowly but surely. Until that day, let's go ahead and have two giants working together again. It's evident that our new course will bring us in competition with the United States. However, we want this to be a new kind of struggle, one made between nations which respect each other, and fought on the field of trade and industry with clear rules and without people dying in a senseless war. In order to bring our nations together, we shall propose our former enemy a conference. This meeting, to be held in Toronto, will set the foundation for a rapprochement, and who knows, perhaps the end of the embargo, which is slowly suffocating our economy. I don't know. We'll see. Two giants together again. Okay, turn 2. Did we not already... It looks like they're striking out again. Okay, so where was it? No, there's no slaves. Litauen, right. So they have middling influence now. Mr. President, I hope this letter finds you well. On the silver lining of our silver linings of our civil war, as I'm sure your people are inclined to agree, is the opportunity for a new Germany to rise from the ashes and mend the wounds of our forebears have created. Included amongst the mistakes of Hitler's Reich was the alienation of our nation from yours. Historically, our people have been like brothers, and our lands have exchanged populations for many times, even in our recent past. Where does your beloved hamburger come from but our own migrants? Your Frankfurt. Where did our national spirit, born in the fires of 1848, come from but the revolutionary fervor of your own war for independence? It is a Führer's wish that our countries might find common ground once more. A discussion of the differences at the least, and perhaps a partnership that could extend well into the future. As I'm sure you'll agree, Mr. President, the world is rapidly changing. With the collapse of alliances, discord in Africa, and the emergence of an unpredictable Japan, the better friends we have, the better chance our world has of persevering. I hope that this can become a dialogue between our office and yours. We look forward to your reply with great interest. Helmut Schmidt, Reich Minister of Foreign Affairs. With bated breath, we wait. I'm sure that Wallace won't say no. I'm not sure. I'm fairly certain. So the past is past. Reichsvölker is vulnerable. We'll go ahead and work on it. With their assets seized or privatized and the corporation itself brought to its here, Reichsvölker has been dealt a blow from which it will never recover. We've put paid to Gellenberg's greed and ambition, liberating his wealth of a nation and ending the brutal practice of industrial slavery in his mines and factories. From here on, it's only a matter of time until Reichsvölker has little more than a footnote in history, a department of the Reich's government managing our nationalized industries. Soon the name will be all that remains, and even that will change in time. Gallenberg's bloody empire will die with him, as it should have long ago. Good old base department coming back to it. Get out of here, Mr. War. We'll do more of these initiatives. Our investments are done. We can do some more research, it seems. More research success would be nice. Looks like all we have is, what, bugs? And cameras. We'll do this. We'll invest some more money, too. And, like, I want to make sure we have a 100% chance of success with all these before we go on. What's Burgundy up to? Fuck if I know. Yeah, getting England on our side is done. We've somehow got them on our side anyway. I don't even know how that happened, but it did. You know, I'm happy. Helmut had his hand in the lead in front of him as if it were a trophy. And perhaps it was, but it was also a great challenge. Still, Schmidt was a capable man. Excellent work, Helmut. The other ministers of the cabinet gave a foreign minister a polite round of applause. Stifled coughs interrupted the backslapping, and an unavoidable consequence of Schmidt's ashtray filled with cigarettes, along with Erhard's seemingly endless cigar. Speer waved his hand at the secretary, who scrambled to open a window. Where do you intend to hold this meeting? I imagine there'll be some back and forth about that. Somewhere neutral would be preferred, if such a place even exists these days. Iceland, perhaps, though if we push, we could get them to visit Hamburg. It didn't come out of the war too badly. Albert suppressed the urge to mention the obvious fact that it was also Schmidt's home. He supposed a man could be excused for a moment of vanity. Capable as Schmidt was, Speer had been uncertain of his ability to achieve this meeting. It always seemed to be something of the man that was holding him back, however, some fire in his eye. Perhaps this was a chance to show it. Then I wish you luck with the Americans. No doubt you shall need it. The cabinet gave a polite chuckle. I do not rely on luck. Let's do this. We can hammer out some trade deals. We almost already won. Let's throw out some military engineers. We'll see what we're doing there. What's with all the... I joined a new Discord, so that might be part of the hubbub. Perhaps. Ooh. Okay, Helmut's long-awaited... This is probably one of the first ones. Helmut's long-awaited moment had arrived. He leaned against the balcony and gazed over the lights of the city. Not a bad view. It's certainly a welcome change from Berlin's Germania's, he mentally corrected himself. Progressively more ugly skyline. The place might have not been the first choice for a summit, but Schmidt managed to persuade him of the sense of the location without saying too much of a true reason. Speer would have given them brought straight to Germany to see his Volkshall. The Führer thought himself a humble man, but how could he stand to see that bulging growth of arrogance every day? Helmut could not understand. The Americans would not like it as much as they loved their monuments. Plus, it was fucking freezing in there. The door opened behind him. The Reich Minister turned and gave a nod before the messenger could speak. The Americans had arrived. Helmut ground his cigarette into the ashtray and rested on the rested on the windowsill. It certainly was an amazing view. The lights of the old city, uncorrupted by the colossal yet crumbling architecture that seemed to define the Reich's recent history. He turned to the door as the voices began to carry up the corridor, reached in his jacket and pulled out another cigarette. "Friends and Americans, a pleasure to meet you." The negotiations had continued off and on for several days. The Americans had played remarkably coy with their demands so far, but only a fool would have let the proceedings begin without an idea of what the Americans would demand at the end. In fact, it was predictable how unpredictable they were being. Everyone here had clearly learned from the same playbook, which made it all the easier to dance with them, with unspoken promises and tie them in knots with double meanings. Reich Minister Schmidt lit his third cigarette of the meeting. The brief head rush it provided him gave him much clarity as it seemed to sap from everyone else in the room. The Amerikaners gave one another an unspoken message that was more of a scream. He hadn't known what they would ask for days ago. Those since had just been to decide what he was willing to give. It was a difficult game, one where neither his own government nor the opposition could know his goals. Thus, however, all was going to plan. "Well, in order to resume official diplomatic relations between our nations," Dallin coughed, "there must be some concessions." Schmidt took another drag and gestured to continue. Number 1, nuclear parity must be maintained, but overall stockpiles must be reduced. An overall reduction in worldwide stockpiles is essential to maintain peace. Number 2, the institution of foreign forced labor in Germany is unacceptable, and while current efforts to end it all recognize the rights of the workers must be improved until workers can be repatriated. Number 3, world trade must be renormalized, and trade between our nations would go a long way after that. Another drag, so predictable. Schmidt had considered this days ago. He put his cigarette into the ashtray to the obvious relief of his counterpart and said, We can do nuclear reduction. Well, we will, of course, guarantee the rights of our involuntary workers. We're taking a stab at no matter what there. So, what have we got working for the rest? While the most dedicated Nazis and hardcore social conservatives are likely to fearmonger about the potential slippery slope it causes, we have agreed to give the millions of slaves across Reich a degree of human rights. To those in our administrations who oppose slavery for economic reasons, moral reasons, or both, this concession is actually a major relief, because it is a move for the purpose of lifting the trade embargo between ourselves and the U.S. Those who would disapprove our decision will be convinced it is purely for pragmatic purposes. Considering America's own tumultuous recent history of slavery, we hope that this considerable change in policy will be enough to persuade them that we are worthwhile and ethical partners. Whether or not that is the truth is irrelevant as long as the Americans see us in that light, of course. Surely Germany will now be a paragon of morality. Right? We're just about done with Diamond Bends, it seems. Also, you might be able... Do we want to work on much to give? Maybe not. Let's do, Land of Diligence. Made in Germany used to stand for something great. It meant quality of craftsmanship and represented a proud artisanal tradition going back centuries. Not for nothing did Tommy and the Yanks joke about German efficiency. The corporations, however, usurped this label. With the advent of slavery during the war, made in Germany became a euphemism for cruelty, exploitation, and inhumanity. For our production to become world-renowned once more, we must reclaim our industrial legacy from the clutches of cartel. Our blue-collar workers are already doing admirable work in this regard. The new recruits are taking their chosen fields with gusto. Aided by the expertise of the old guard, with each passing day we come one step closer to shedding our shame and setting the gold standard for quality production. Well, there we go. We'll almost get him out of the southern Germany, Bavaria region. The rest of this is kind of coming along. Seizing assets, we'll see how much that does. I need a diligence, not too much, honestly. The Azerbaijan. Yeah, it didn't do too much there. So we can do a social state or a social market. If I'm not mistaken. I'll play off a bit more debt. We're making pretty healthy profits right now anyway. I was never enamored of a welfare state established by Bismarck. It certainly helped keep social movements at bay, but the sheer amount of money and red tape involved made it hell to keep running. However, try as I might, I can't convince the others that their social state, as they're calling it now, is a suboptimal route for us to take. I must admit that the whole idea encompasses more than just economics, vital as those are, so I'm willing to give some grounds here. If Speer is willing to support it, then I won't fight them on it. They want to deal with the ramifications in 20-30 years, that's fine by me. I'll read the Reich Ministerium to begin funding the social state programs drawn up by Kissinger. No doubt many of them will need revising by learned economists. I just hope Speer knows what he's doing by approving this. That will do it. I'll get the facts from austerity. Yeah, we still need to cut all this by big bets. But I can think of worse things to do right now. Honestly. I guess some more synthetic oil investments are always neat. Let's do one of these missions. Singvogel has been a success. Having established a foothold in Japan, we can now launch a more ambitious project. The R&D will begin a probe into Japan proper. We have no real knowledge of how strong their own intelligence agency is, so the risk is unknown. The rewards, however, can be very high, depending on what we can uncover. Agent Berger-Leish here. All clear? The voice cracked from a portable microphone hidden under a particularly large necktie as the operative followed Freight. Agent Getsets, all clear. Another voice coming from a man in a cafe near the alley. Agent Bush, nothing to the pot. From the last, looking at the large square from a window looking at the Hefnerplatz. With everything that has been happening, this year's Reich Parteitag, der Macht, was a sensible target for students and everything needed to go smoothly. For about half an hour, the Nazi officials spoke from the stage, and then everything changed. Agent Bush, Team Resch, large counter rally, site in Carolinenstrasse. It will collide with the Reich Parteitag in 5 minutes, came the worried voice, immediately followed by his colleague. Agent Gessetz, another counter rally, sighted in Brunnengasse, colliding estimate in 3 minutes. Immediately, Agent Berger-Leish took his radio. Waschmeister Braun, we need OPA reinforcements at Hefnerplatz. Unauthorized student rallies colliding with the Reich Parteitag, he said, and immediately came the answer. Received, we shall send our full complement. Now all they need to do is wait and pray. In the end, the Opera came, but not before the two manifestations turned to a large brawl with dozens injured and hundreds of arrests. Agent Berger-Leish was talking to the Wachtminister when one of them came running. Wachtminister, we found many of these underground and carried by the students. He handed a crumpled pamphlet. The operative saw it, visibly paled, and immediately called headquarters. Agent Berger-Leish here. Reichsbahn propaganda found within student circles. Things are escalating. Anerkennung und Reich und Freiheit. Wartime industry. Oh dear. Agents of the Reich nach Reichsstaat, how we say it, watched diligently as the events of a rally of the Reich Partei Dr. mocked and folded, where each hard-working German soldier and workers gathered, which each gatherer celebrating another of each German state, supporting the Nazis, meaning everything had been going according to schedule. Even as the liberalized students gathered protesting the might of the German Reich, the situation was generally hindered as the R&D had been able to control and limit interruptions, even with tensions rising. Nevertheless, the people, although fearing the liberals lurking within the shadows, expressed genuine support for Germany, controllingly, with reverence, with genuine care and concern. However, the gathering of counter-protesting students continued to grow, each crying out over their cares, their damned desire to tear apart the slave system or stop the German war machine. As the kettle of tension boiled, all it took was 3 squeezes of a trigger to turn this situation into a disaster, as a certain Josef Bachmann, what would be another teenager joining students, shot one of the student leaders, identified by the R&D, Rudi Dusch. The first bullet entered between his shoulder and the throat, pushing Dusch back before the second bullet struck, traveling around the side of Dusch's skull and brain before the final tore through straight into Dusch's head, sending a splattering of blood and brain matter across the students as he fell, dead. With a section of the guards attacking Bachmann and Duschka dead in the arms of his student comrades, chaos reigned. The students broke through the barrier, smashing straight into the rally as dozens more guards rushed to the scene. Students began to beat guards over the head with clubs, bottles, and bricks, while guards responded with gunfire, gas, and armored vehicles. The rest of the events of the rally were cancelled as a massive riot of the students endangered the image of the presentation, along with all those supporting the Nazis present at the rally. The city of Nuremberg was placed under lockdown and martial law following the events. Searching for the rioters, and the German military scoured the city, strictly enforcing the rules of curfew and containment. Meanwhile, the Reichsbanner held the gall to support the protests, declaring Bachmann's actions as having been an orchestrated attack on the leadership of the free speech movement of Germany. Damn it. World 2068.d. Really interesting. Okay. Yeah, all their localization isn't done yet, apparently. That's kind of sucky. Yeah, I don't know what else to do. We got our doctrines done. Huh. The solemn ink of a newspaper held in his hands brought a storm of vengeful anger into the mind of Gerhard Wessel as he stared at the shuttered window of one of the biggest of the vat. Finally, after catching a few breaths, Wessel walked in, greeted by the watchful eyes of around a dozen of Wessel's subordinates. Greeted by the watchful eyes, leaders within the intelligence organization, and commanders of several agents of the R&D. Some of these men had been there at Nuremberg, some of them agents, but to Wessel, one thing remained as he walked up the podium. No more isn't from what happened. It's not my nature to scorn my men, nor render any of you all as lowly or failures. Having addressing the events of the rally for the Reich Partei der Macht at Nuremberg, we must recognize a certain degree of failure amidst ourselves and our department in the handling of what happened, and our preparation for a potential conflict. Now it is our duty to ensure that we can resolve what happened, and where to go from here. Wessel said as he looked around, uncomfortable. For the next hour, Wessel scorned them, ensuring each and every one of them that they would be responsible in the investigation of the incident, now that the world is watching them. Herr Gellen, I'm hoping this is sufficient for you, Wessel said, entering the smoke-filled office of Reinhard Gellen. Of course, what is it, Wessel? Gellen asked. Well, sir, it's in regards to the Nuremberg incident. Bach's still in custody, and quite frankly, we need to figure out why he shot Duschka. What if someone's backing him? Wessel said. Gellen took a long drag of a cigar, looking at his desk before uttering with puff smoke. What makes you think anyone else is involved? Could be some fucked up kid after all. It just doesn't make any sense. He's a young kid, small criminal record, doing day jobs. Why on earth would he shoot a political ideologue? Wessel responded with a chuckle. Galen responded, well, if you ask me, some of these lowlives can get all wrapped up in the SS's business when there's nowhere to gun. Men run to the cult. Start your search there. Wessel was taken aback. The Ordenstadt. Would they really bother shooting a student leader just for disagreeing? While doubt rushed to his head about Galen's statement, he was interrupted by young intelligence officers slamming the door with an urgent look in his eyes. Josef Bachmann was found hanged in his cell. A cruelly drawn mark of a Schutzstaffel was marked on one of his coat sleeves, with Galen all the more exuberant over his claim of Burgundian guilt. Something isn't right. Huh. Well, okay. We'll go ahead and work on, what, the guided chain? The guided chain, maybe. Actually, let's go ahead and do more rights for slaves. Another agreement has been made, and that concerns our former property. What the Americans called slaves, we shall treat more kindly. And hopefully that will show them that we are more than willing to do what is right. After all, that is something we wish to do. Let's just hope that they don't rub it in our faces too much. There are no slaves in southern Germany. There are a lot of slaves in the rest of these places, but what are you going to do? Azerbaijan, we're running out of them. Been over a week since the suicide of the assassin, Josef Bachmann. A whole week of thinking, pondering, and questioning occurring within the mind of Gerhard Wessel. The customer shoots Stoffel lightning bolts. The Galen's quick assumption of the influence of the Ordenstadt, the lack of proper investigation. Wessel, a skilled and experienced investigator, knew that the answer lied within the body, within Bachmann, and yet every time he approached this idea, bureaucratic shifts of resources and reorganization of priorities for the department swept away any attempt. Uh-oh. The ever-recurring wall of smoke hit Wessel like a wave, only to calm back down and reveal the face of his ever-diligent superior. Good evening, Herr Galen, Wessel greeted. It's the same to you, Wessel. Now, a late hour into the night, coming into my office, what's pricked your mind tonight? Galen responded. Well, Herr Galen, I just have some, issues in the Nuremberg investigation, but I believe I have a solution. You see, I understand the hypothesis. However, it appears too convenient, or even that we may have overlooked pieces of Dr. Bachmann that could lead further into any direction. Nevertheless, I believe a formal investigation of Bachmann's body could allow for some, advances. Unfortunately, the proposal has been shut down due to other matters of the office being, randomly prioritized, and I believe we need to focus on this investigation. Galen said, squashing the cigar against the ashtray on his desk. Bachmann had clear ties to Burgundian authorities. Just clear as day upon the man's very clothes. You wish to tell me that it could somehow be something completely different? We may have many things to worry about the R&D. Reopening a closed case is not fun of a Wessel, Galen said frustratingly as he lit another cigar. Fury bore into Wessel's body. How could his superior, the man he's respected for so long, suddenly act so ostensibly to displease? Phew. This wasn't right, not at all. Lifting his awful, Wessel said, Vekelen, Kessler, to my office. Thus a plan was hatched. A plan for the agents to break into the morgue to investigate Bachmann's corpse, pictures and all, and bring it all back to Wessel. Wessel could not allow whatever was plaguing the R&D to simply scurry away, and we shan't let it. Oh man. Is this German Watergate? Italy fucking blew things already. Jesus. At the Toronto Accords. With the conference ended in resounding success, we can now proudly say that we've opened a new era for our two countries. The US of A and the Greater German Reich are now bound by their own agreement to face each other in friendly and regulated competition, and to always seek out a diplomatic solution to any problem that may arise. With the Toronto Accords, our economy will once more soar into the skies, and the German people will understand how righteous our cause is. Let this be the final gravestone on the mad dreams of those who tried to stop us. That sounds good to me. Wunderbar. What else? Land of the Free? I think we do the Home of the Brave. Yeah. As a way to further increase our relationship with the United States, Helmut Schmidt has proposed a tour of the East Coast, during which he will meet and fraternize with higher echelons of American politics and government. This should help us achieve further benefits from our new partners. In the end, the Führer has agreed to this proposal and allowed the minister to visit all landmarks he desires, as long as the Amerikaner agree. While this is sure to spark controversy in the Reich, as Schmidt will surely visit sites linked with the slave struggle for freedom, the gang, our leader, preferred to keep the Gang of Four content. There we go. WMD protection. Ooh, it looks like they're having a conflict against Wales. Right on, mate. Bloody hell. The Welsh issue. It looks like they got their fucking unification tree to work out. That must be nice. You're going with, it looks like they didn't go, whatchamacallit. They didn't go unionist. Oh, this afternoon, diplomats from Germany and America have signed the Toronto Accords. The Americans, after more than a little deliberation, have agreed to end the trade embargo that stood against Germany for the last decade. Both governments are quietly optimistic at what the future holds for both nations. Skeptics ask themselves, though, will these new overtures survive administrative change? Well, until then, to a new era. I think these guys just need to stop being so pessimistic. It looks like the Brits are winning here. The final stop in this good war patrol, German Foreign Minister Schmidt has arrived in Washington, D.C. From what we have heard from staffers present with the German delegation, the uncontested highlight of a visit for Mr. Schmidt was his stop at the admittedly very lovely Lincoln Memorial. Despite the supposedly much more impressive works and exhibits of Germania, Schmidt was apparently mesmerized by the statue and stood silently in its presence for several minutes. According to one staffer who was known to embellish his stories, a single teardrop could even be seen in Mr. Schmidt's eyes. Either way, he seemed to very much appreciate the memorial and the great American values it stands for. The Nazi foreign minister admires Lincoln? Probably a good sign, right? Okay, well, we'll go ahead and do this. Boom. Get out of here! What's probably the next place to fall? It's probably going to be, Podolian, if I had to guess. Is Daimler-Benz? Yeah, Daimler-Benz is vulnerable. So let's go and work on it. Much to give. Daimler-Benz has a redeeming quality. It's their eye for talent. Corporation employs many of the Reich's best engineers to design their vehicles. They also hold many patents for advancing technologies, which will be useful when it comes to competing with our economic rivals. The R&D section of cartel will be retained, minus the few criminals to be found therein. That should reduce it to a state more sustainable to our purposes. We can then put them to work. Developing both civilian and military technologies for the benefit of the nation, its people, and our economy, rather than for the purpose of fattening the flick's purse. There we go. Oop. 2 weeks had gone by, all according to Wessel's plan, before any meeting between the three conspirators of the intelligence department. Late at night, once Galen left early to attend his usual reservation at some Germanian restaurant, and all that was left in the office was Wessel, Wedekind, Kessler, enough illegally obtained information to have all three men locked away for the rest of their lives. With all the lights in the office shut off and all window shutters brought down and against the night sky, the meeting began. Wedekind, Kessler, I respect your commitment to the goals we have put together. However, I want you two to know the legal ramifications of all of this. This could easily be what leads to an early death in the Germanian heavy containment facility. I'll be more than happy to allow you to leave and never speak of your involvement again. Do either of you wish to do this? With the men's eerie silence and the constant stares at Wessel, an understanding agreement was made. The bag was unzipped to reveal the products of the break-in. Photos, documents, and physical evidence all spilled onto the table. Each of the photos revealed the harsh red marks upon the throat, with finger marks all up and down the assassin's throat, with rough scratches and blood trickling down the corpse. Meanwhile, the autopsy proved even more suspicion regarding the case of the death for Josef Bachmann. The primary medical examiner involved in the autopsy of Bachmann had been Dr. Heinz Felfa, who had grown closer and closer to Reinhard Gehlen during his career in the R&D, which brought things closer to Gehlen, of course. However, the most damning piece of evidence dawned in the mind of Gerhard Wessel. Heinz Felfa had been in Kiev for a criminal autopsy. Someone forged these documents, Wessel said in shock. The two men nodded, Kessler burning through his cigarette in the meantime. Someone swung off this entire investigation. Someone powerful. The question remained, however, should he intend to pursue whoever's throwing everything off, or would it just lead to their deaths? You can follow the enemy in the ink, or follow Felfa. Fuck. I don't know. Let's figure out what we do for the great game. We'll lose some attack helicopters, worst case scenario. We don't even need to do this, but I want to flex on the Italians real quick. God, this is a tough pick. Let's follow the enemy in the ink. Right. Oh, I want to say real quick, just because I'm curious what'll happen. I think the move is to follow the enemy in the ink. That might work, right? I think it's anti-tank. Okay, buyout. With our fat, trimmed, and unsavory executives lined up for prosecution, Daimler-Benz is vulnerable. Now it's time that we go in hard and fast. We'll aggressively buy up every single asset they have left, forcibly if we must. In a wake of the once mighty cartel, we'll be just another state-owned industrial corporation operative at the art beck and call. With that done, we can also move on to the evil of dealing with that corrupt evil snake, Fleck. He ranks alongside Obbs in terms of the lives he's destroyed in the name of profit, and has coiled himself around a fortune that belongs to someone more deserving. Perhaps if we're lucky, someone else might get to him first and give him what he deserves. Perhaps not. All in due time, you rat bastard. Yes, South Germany's done. The Rhineland is full of slaves. Okay. Smoke had long since displaced any clean air in the room, despite the cracked windows. The meeting had overshot its expected length by over an hour, and Earhart showed no signs of stopping the torrent of figures that somehow poured from his mouth where he chewed a cigar. Even those with more of a head for figures had begun to tune out. Speer's eyes glanced towards the other seat of a table. The various hangers-on were frantically flicking through papers, trying to keep up. Kissinger was doing his best to appear interested, but Albert recognized a glassy look over his eyes. Reich Minister Schmidt was making his own way through the tome Earhart has provided, tilting his head and nodding at some paragraphs incomprehensible to human eyes. The Führer redirected his attention back to the economist as he seemed to be coming to the end of his point. Tax exceptions and exemptions abolished, tax reductions reduced drastically, and the implementation of a true fixed-rate income tax. Speer's eyebrows raised with a sentence. You know as well as I do that our industry relies on those tax breaks, Friedrich. The Reichswerke reinvested half of what they saved on new equipment this year. How much are you proposing for this tax? Reich Minister Earhart took another drag of a cigar. worked it around his mouth, and exhaled it across the table. 40%. And that slumped neck straightened and eyes refocused. Speer coughed, and not because of his smoke. That's ridiculous. He settled on, unable to think of a better word. IG Farben alone will have my head. They've been paying less than 20 since the war. Frederick didn't appear ruffled, just inhaled more smoke. Ridiculous it might seem, mein Führer, but I can assure you it is quite sound. The people have been holding the burden of taxation for decades. Regressive tax policies may expand industries, but they have become bloated, forcing the industrial conglomerates to pay what they owe while allowing the people to spend more will force a new equilibrium, once they'll appreciate far more than those fat slaving bastards at Farben did. The fear once again took the stock of the room. Schmidt's eyes had brightened, and his nods turned from the paper to Speer. General Field Marshal von Trescar looked skeptical, but kept his thoughts to himself. Deputy Führer Kissinger leaned over to Schmidt, hoping to glean some of his knowledge. Political reform is not possible without economic reform. I guess we'll do it. Telephone for you, my Führer. Speer glanced up, ready to deliver a rebuke at being interrupted mid-sentence before he realized he'd been expecting a call. There were others who could demand a conversation. There were a few others who could demand a conversation with Führer in this manner. He sighed and gestured for the phone. The minister sat about the table, looked variously confused and intrigued, save for Erhardt. He simply leaned forward to his chair. Speer held the receiver to his ear. Speaking. Mein Führer, the voice drawled, barely pronouncing the honorific before turning to business. I'm sure these new tax rates haven't escaped your attention. They must be corrected at once. IG Farben may have been the biggest name on Harab's business card, but it certainly would be pressed for space. Close to 50 of the Reich's large businesses boasted on him on their board of directors. 3 others could speak to Speer so brusquely. The Führer looked down at the tax papers that decorated the table. At this very moment, he wasn't remotely surprised they'd leak, considering the magnitude of IG Farben's influence. Hamann, you called it an ideal time. Not a hint of sarcasm showed on his face, though a hint of a smirk tugged at Erhard's lips. If you were going through the plans, and your input would be appreciated. Then you can sleep them off your desk. You know damn well that those tax breaks will do for us. And you can be sure every day in my phone book if you'll know it. They're going to know by the end of the day. The phone went dead. Reich Minister Erhardt chuckled. It seemed like he did not need to know what Abs had said. If I may, mein Führer, I don't think it's necessary to respond. The opinion of a man like him is not something you need to worry about. Alright, we continue as planned. And we'll just see how it goes. No, play. I'm curious, does this go down on like day by day? Okay, yeah, they're going to war with Wales. Ludwig surveyed the sheets of figures arrayed across his desk, his domain. The incomes and expenditures of every Gau, Reichsgau, and Reichsland in black and white. He directed his ministry to spend the last week gathering this data. Gauleiters did not appreciate intrusion into the affairs, preferring to think of themselves more as lords to be left to their own. Once gathered, it was just as monumental a task to sort through, but for the knowledge he gained, he would pay any price. The Führer had proved more easily moved than he had expected. Perhaps he wasn't sincere after all. One does not ignore the richest man in the Reich on a whim. The numbers did not lie, and while there had been a short-term income drop for it, it had been more than made up for by the sudden vast flow of currency between the hands of the Reich citizens. One mark is not just one mark, but many, holding value for every transaction it's used in. And taking the money out of the pockets of men like Hermann Josef Abs was a good deed in itself. They could complain, but if things kept going their way, their oligopolies would be on the way out. If he didn't even have to go Bismarck. There we go. Up, well. The island's out ablaze once more. We'll see what happens. Oh, you need help with that, mate? Eh? I'm sure that'll be fine. It's just fucking Wales, right? Like, if I can think of a nation I'm the least scared of in TNO, Wales is probably up there. I mean, sorry to any Welsh people watching, but I mean, yeah, see, I think my point has just been proven. Yep. The Kingdom of England of Wales has won. Never country fallen to prospective British Empire. I'll go for a bit longer. I'll go until midnight on my... Actually, probably not midnight. Maybe midnight. Now, we'll go ahead and work on... Let's reforge the here a bit more. Contrary to what the Ministry of Propaganda is obliged to claim, the here is not what it used to be. Cronyism and stagnation have worn away its best qualities, while the common soldiery are dangerously out of practice. Even our R&D has fallen behind in that of our competitors, as recent experience in South Africa have shown. It's time to enact a general refurbishment of the here's internal workings. While we have no desire for conflict, Germany must be able to defend itself. And a key part of that is keeping up with the advances made by our rivals, or ideally, surpassing them. They keep overshooting. I don't even know why. I think I'm just going to let them wrap the noose around their throats a little more. Old Maggie is going more panache. Ooh. Status of the Japanese military. Above all else, main issue that currently faces Japan, its own military. Having successfully infiltrated via agents in low-level positions, we have uncovered that the IJA is facing issues with massive discontent in its ranks. With powerful influence, it is at odds with the other branches of the government and threatens national stability. The situation seems unlikely to change for the time being. The government is ineffective with giving response. Discontent within seems to be rising with the current status quo. Future development has no clear way of developing. Expected outcomes: status quo resulting in decay of state power. Purging of military, massive decline in stability. Military continues to grow, political turmoil. Japan unlikely to recover from the situation within the next few years. End of page. More PP, more stability. I love getting more PP. I like having a big PP. We'll dig more at that. The issues in Poland. A little bit more, at least. Reforge the here a bit more. Wunderbar. From here, let's go ahead. War's changed. Oh, is that not the... No, elevate for good man. Following the Burger Creek, the majority of the here divisions who had fought for our enemies were granted amnesty and reintegrated. Herr Speer was right to do so after all. We were not murderous Bolsheviks, but it came at a price. An army's image is best represented by its leadership, and many reactionary militarist officers have retained their ranks. Whether they are committed foes of our regime or simply misguided, this will not do. Most troublesome officers must be reassigned or retired. Their place shall be taken by newly promoted men of sound character, dedicated to the nation and its people rather than the ideology of its leader. There we go. We're doing a lot of shit right now. We might want to start going down this even. Honestly. Alright. The entire... I think this will be the last event, and then I should call it. The entire Wehrmacht, but the here more than all others, the Bürgerkrieg was like a scythe wielded by death itself, decimating simple soldiers and officers alike as we fighting degenerated in house-to-house combat, where the entirety of Germany was the front line, and the command tent was a place like any other to fight and die. The following period wasn't any kindred to the Oberkommando here, as many disloyal, corrupt, or incapable officers were systematically purged, leaving a large holy officer corps. However, from the problems come opportunities, and von Tresckow knew this very well. The Prussian general spent years of the Reconstruction not only reforming the army's doctrines and structural organization, but also training the new generation of officers to ensure they wouldn't have to follow in their predecessors' footsteps. One of his great achievements was the establishment of the Officerschule des Heers in Dresden. Staffed by the best remaining military theorists, the new institution was made so that cadets from the entire Reich could learn the new doctrines of war in a suitable environment. Of course, said environment will be filled with reference to the Prussian discipline and reformist ideals. Despite the ideological issues, however, no one can deny that the Officerschule has done an excellent job. The end of the first training cycle and the subsequent ceremony in which the young cadets took their ranks as full-fledged officers over here marks a new beginning for the armed forces of the Reich. We can only pray that these new generals and lieutenants will prove worthier than their predecessors and able to keep the Wehrmacht from descending once more into decadence. Salutes the new officers. Well, I mean, that looks good to me. I don't know about you guys, but it looks good to me. Yeah. So I think we should just go ahead and, start wrapping it up here, folks. I'll select one more focus for next time to finish up. Let's do the guiding hand. No matter how much we invest, Eastern Europe will never trust us if we insist on holding their hand throughout the process of economic regeneration. True equality is a long ways off, but we must look to present ourselves as a partner rather than a master. Germany will always be Europe's largest economy, but having the same amount of clout in legal terms will help foster trust of our new friends. Rather than maintaining German control over the resources and heavy industry of the East, we should place these in the hands of reliable locals, wherever possible. Allowing for a strong degree of autonomy will give them the expertise needed to become self-reliant and will demonstrate our good intentions. No amount of whitewashing will give our economic dominance will give us that. Lose a bit of PP, but we're good other than that. Yeah, let's not sour relations anymore with Italy. I said I was going to cut it off. I will eventually. Just taking one last look real quick, seeing what's good. Do a little bit of this real quick, why not? Might be a little waste of PP, but that's Denmark. We're good Denmark-wise. North Germany. The Rhineland. Okay, we did that. It's time to cut it. I gotta go to bed. I gotta wake up in 8 hours. Thanks for watching as always, folks. If you like this video, go and leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to see more of his content in the future, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. More uploads every weekday, as well as every Saturday. If you have any comments, feedback, concerns, anything of the sort, leave them in the comment section below. I read all the comments I get, and I appreciate any and all feedback you can folks may have for me. If you want to chat, play games, or do anything of the sort, I have a Discord down link below. If you want to send a few bucks my way, I have a Patreon. If you just want to watch me do this sort of stuff live, I have a Twitch. All that's down link below. Yeah, I think that's really about it. Thanks for watching as always, guys. Let's go ahead and do all of it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's it for now, ladies and gentlemen. My name has been DB333. Thank you as always for watching. And, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.